Introduction. Dating in your 40s is completely different from dating in your 20s or 30s. Not better or worse, just different. And when you're connected with a younger woman, the dynamic changes even more. Not because of stereotypes or assumptions, but because you're coming from two different stages of life with different experiences, expectations, and levels of emotional maturity. But here's the truth most men never hear. Dating younger women isn't about trying to be younger yourself. It's not about competing with her peers, chasing validation, or pretending you're still 25. In fact, the moment you do that, you lose every advantage you naturally have. What actually attracts a younger woman to an older man is rarely the age gap. It's the energy gap. She's drawn to your steadiness, not your speed. Your clarity, not your chaos. Your lived experience, not your attempts to impress. This video isn't about gimmicks or games. It's about what men over 40 must understand, the mindset shifts, the emotional intelligence, the boundaries, and the confidence required to build a healthy, balanced, respectful connection with someone younger. Because if you approach it with immaturity, insecurity, or ego, it won't work. But if you approach it with self-awareness, strength, and authenticity, it can create a dynamic that's fulfilling, exciting, and surprisingly natural. 1. Don't try to be 25 again. As we move through life, one of the most common traps we fall into is a desire to rewind the clock, trying to feel, look, or live like we did at 25. It's a natural impulse. At 25, many of us felt unstoppable, full of energy, possibilities, dreams, vitality, and illusion that time was endless. But the great lesson of maturity is understanding that life isn't meant to be lived in reverse. Try to recreate the past is like gripping sand. No matter how hard you hold on, it slips through your fingers. The truth is, each phase of life brings its own form of strength, wisdom, and beauty, and trying to be 25 again prevents you from experiencing who you are now. As we evolve, our priorities become clearer, our thinking becomes sharper, and our understanding of ourselves deepens. Instead of chasing youth, the wiser path is embracing presence, accepting your current age, honoring your experiences, and recognizing that growth doesn't happen by returning to an old version of yourself, but by stepping fully into the one you become. The pressure to stay young often comes from external noise, society's obsession with youth, social media's highlight reels, or the fear of being left behind. But this pressure is an illusion that steals your peace. There is strength in aging intentionally. You have already survived storms your younger self couldn't imagine. You have developed emotional intelligence, patience, and depth that no 25-year-old can shortcut their way into. Life is not a competition with younger versions of people around you, nor with a younger version of yourself. The goal isn't to match their pace, but to walk confidently in your own lane. When you stop wishing to be 25 again, you start noticing the richness of your current life. Relationships built on trust rather than excitement, goals shaped by clarity rather than confusion, and a sense of self-defined by experience rather than insecurity. The Stoics remind us that resisting reality only creates suffering. Trying to reclaim a past stage is resisting the natural flow of life. Accepting your age is not giving up, it's leveling up. It's stepping into a mindset where you no longer chase validation, but choose growth, where you trade frantic energy for purposeful action, and where you allow wisdom to guide you more than impulse. Your life today is not less than your life at 25. It is simply different, and in many ways richer. When you shift from longing for who you were to appreciating who you are, you free yourself from unrealistic expectations. You begin to live with gratitude instead of nostalgia. You start investing in what truly matters, improving your character, nurturing meaningful relationships, building stability, and creating a life that your future self will thank you for. The lesson is simple but powerful. Don't try to be 25 again. Be fully, unapologetically the age you are, and use everything you've learned to become wiser, stronger, and more grounded than you've ever been. 2. Your biggest advantage is emotional maturity. Emotional maturity is one of the most underestimated advantages you can possess, yet quietly shapes the way people perceive you, the way opportunities unfold around you, and the way you navigate life's inevitable challenges. When you are emotionally mature, you stop reacting impulsively and start responding intentionally. Instead of being pulled around by ego, fear, or insecurity, you develop a capacity to pause, observe, and choose your actions from a place of clarity. This gives you a level of power that most people don't realize they lack. Emotional maturity means understanding that your feelings are valid but not always accurate, and it means refusing to let temporary emotions create permanent consequences. It's the ability to remain steady while others are chaotic, to stay respectful even when you're frustrated, and to maintain your integrity when you're tested. Most people think power comes from being louder, quicker, smarter, or more aggressive, but true power comes from being able to regulate yourself when everything inside you wants to explode. People naturally gravitate toward those who bring stability, not drama. They trust those who are consistent, not unpredictable. They respect those who can disagree without attacking, and who can walk away without needing to prove anything. Emotional maturity becomes your silent magnet. It draws the right people toward you and pushes the wrong ones away. In relationships, it allows you to communicate without manipulation, to set boundaries without guilt, and to choose partners based on compatibility rather than insecurity. In your career, it helps you stay composed under pressure, collaborate without ego, and solve problems instead of creating new ones. In your personal growth, emotional maturity frees you from the exhausting cycle of blaming others and empowers you to take ownership of your life. It teaches you that not everything deserves your reaction, not everyone deserves access to you, and not every battle is worth fighting. You learn to detach from outcomes you cannot control, to stop chasing validation, and to invest your energy where it actually matters. Ultimately, emotional maturity becomes your biggest advantage because it transforms you from someone who is constantly affected by the world into someone who shapes their own world. When you develop this level of inner strength, you become rare, and rarity is always valuable. People notice your calm, your patience, your kindness, your discipline, even your silence. You become the person who doesn't fold under pressure, who listens before speaking, who thinks before acting, and who leads without forcing. Emotional maturity turns you into someone who doesn't need to seek respect because you naturally command it. It is not about being perfect or emotionless. It's about mastering yourself. And in a world where most people cannot control their impulses, the one who can instantly stands out. Emotional maturity isn't just an advantage. It's a superpower, and the more you develop it, the more life begins to open up for you. 3. Lead with presence, not performance. In a world obsessed with image, achievement, and constant self-promotion, many people fall into the trap of believing that attraction, whether romantic, social, or professional, comes from performing. They try to impress others with rehearsed lines, exaggerated confidence, or a curated persona. But what truly draws people in is not performance. It is presence. Presence is a quiet, grounded state of being fully yourself. It's the calm aura that communicates self-respect without having to announce it. When you lead with presence, you stop trying to convince people to like you and instead allow them to experience who you genuinely are. Presence comes from alignment between what you think, who you are, and how you act. People who lead with presence do not chase approval because they are comfortable in their own skin. They listen deeply instead of waiting for their turn to speak. They express themselves honestly rather than worrying about how their words will be received. This gives them a natural magnetism that performance can never replicate. Performance creates tension, the constant fear that if you stop acting, people will lose interest. Presence creates ease, because you have nothing to defend or pretend. Leading with presence means showing up authentically, even when you feel imperfect. It means being grounded in your values, instead of being swept away by the noise of expectations. When you meet others from this state, you interact with clarity rather than insecurity. You communicate with intention rather than anxiety. You connect from strength rather than need. People feel this instantly. Humans are wired to sense authenticity and to gravitate toward those who embody it. Presence reassures others because it signals self-trust, and self-trust is contagious. Presence also means being fully in the moment. When you are present, you are not stuck in your head crafting the perfect response. You are not mentally rehearsing a persona. You are simply engaged, aware, observant, and receptive. This makes you more attuned to the energy of the interaction. You notice subtle cues, emotional shifts, and deeper meanings. Because of this, you respond, not react. And the quality of your responses becomes naturally impressive, without any effort to perform. Performance, on the other hand, creates distance. When you perform, you place a mask between you and others. You try to control how they see you. But control is the enemy of connection. People may be entertained by a performance, but they are moved by presence. They may admire your presentation, but they bond with your authenticity. The truth is, no performance, no matter how polished, can replace the power of simply being real. To lead with presence, cultivate stillness and self-awareness. Slow down, breathe, listen more deeply. Allow silence instead of rushing to fill it. Speak from truth rather than insecurity. And most importantly, trust that who you are is enough. When you stop performing, you stop seeking validation. And that is exactly when people feel most drawn to you. Presence is your real power. Performance was only the illusion. 4. Understand lifestyle differences. Understanding lifestyle differences is one of the most important lessons in building healthy, successful relationships, especially when partners come from different age groups, backgrounds, or life stages. Lifestyle is not just about daily routines. It reflects values, priorities, habits, and a unique rhythm that shapes how a person lives. When two people connect, it's natural to be drawn to chemistry, attraction, or shared interests. But long-term connection requires awareness of how each person's lifestyle blends or clashes with the other. For example, someone who prefers quiet evenings at home will naturally experience friction with a partner who thrives on social events, late-night outings, or constant novelty. These differences don't mean a relationship can't work. They simply mean both individuals must approach each other with understanding, communication, and flexibility. Recognizing lifestyle differences early helps you avoid confusion, unmet expectations, and unnecessary conflict. It allows you to see the relationship realistically instead of through assumptions or idealized fantasies. Lifestyle differences also shape the pace and priorities of the relationship. A person focused on building a career may approach commitment differently than someone seeking stability, deeper emotional bonding, or family life. Likewise, differing responsibilities, such as children, demanding jobs, travel requirements, or financial obligations, affect how much time and energy each partner can invest. These practical realities matter. When partners understand them, they make decisions from a place of clarity instead of tension or disappointment. Understanding lifestyle differences also builds respect. Instead of trying to change each other, both partners learn to appreciate what the other brings to the relationship. Perhaps one person introduces structure, consistency, and emotional balance, while the other offers spontaneity, optimism, and a sense of adventure. When differences become complementary instead of conflicting, the relationship gains depth. But this only happens when both people acknowledge those differences honestly. Pretending they don't exist will only create pressure and resentment later. By discussing expectations, how each partner spends their time, their daily habits, financial approaches, social life, or personal goals, you create an environment where both can express their needs openly. This leads to healthier boundaries and greater trust. Understanding lifestyle differences also teaches emotional maturity. You learn that attraction alone isn't enough. Compatibility is built through awareness, communication, and willingness to adapt without losing yourself. Mature relationships grow when both individuals accept that their partner lives life in a different way, maybe faster, slower, quieter, or more adventurous, and choose to meet somewhere in the middle. Real love doesn't demand sameness. It embraces individuality. Finally, understanding lifestyle differences helps you make wiser choices about who you allow into your life. It prevents you from forcing connections with people whose world simply doesn't fit yours. Instead, you begin seeking partners whose lifestyle aligns with your long-term vision, emotional needs, and daily realities. This clarity leads to stronger, more fulfilling relationships built on respect, honesty, and genuine compatibility. When you truly understand lifestyle differences, you create space for real connection, not the illusion of one.
5. Don't become her teacher or dad figure. In dating, especially when there's an age gap, one of the biggest mistakes a man can make is slipping into the role of a teacher, mentor, or father figure. It often happens without noticing. You start offering advice she didn't ask for, guiding her decisions, correcting her viewpoints, or subtly positioning yourself as the person who knows better. While this may come from a place of care or experience, it shifts the dynamic into something unbalanced and ultimately unattractive. Women don't want to date a man who feels like a parent. They want a partner, an equal, someone who respects their autonomy and intellect. The moment you start educating her, you remove the mystery, the polarity, and the natural spark that comes from two adults meeting as peers. Instead of confidence, it projects insecurity, an unconscious need to assert your value through knowledge or authority. And ironically, it usually creates the opposite effect. She begins to feel judged, controlled, or minimized. Even if she initially appreciates your guidance, over time the relationship starts feeling heavy, like she's being molded into your ideal rather than being seen for who she is. Attraction thrives in space, curiosity, and mutual discovery, not in lecturing or leadership roles she didn't ask you to fill. A woman is attracted to a man who knows himself, not one who constantly positions himself as the wise elder. Your experience should show through your presence, not your preaching. Share opinions when asked, offer support without taking over, and allow her to make her own decisions even when they differ from yours. What truly draws a woman in is a man who is grounded, not a man who is trying to shape her. Being older or more experienced doesn't give you authority over her life. It simply gives you the opportunity to show emotional maturity by treating her as your equal. When you focus on enjoying her personality instead of improving it, you allow the relationship to breathe. She feels seen, respected, and empowered. That is what builds connection. That is what builds trust. And trust is what builds lasting attraction. Stepping away from the teacher role also means embracing the idea that she has things to teach you as well, new perspectives, new energy, new ways of experiencing the world. When the flow goes both ways, the relationship becomes vibrant instead of hierarchical. You're not leading her, you're walking together. And when you maintain that balance, you keep the polarity alive. Masculine presence paired with feminine expression, not masculine authority over feminine youth. So, if you want a relationship that feels alive, passionate, and respectful, let go of the need to instruct. Show your value through character, not control. Stay grounded, stay confident, and let her discover who you are rather than telling her who she should be. That is how you stay a man she's drawn to, not a figure she outgrows. 6. Set boundaries early and clearly. Setting boundaries early and clearly is one of the most essential principles for building healthy relationships, protecting your emotional well-being, and maintaining self-respect. When you set boundaries from the beginning, you communicate who you are, what you value, and what you will or will not tolerate. Many people hesitate to establish boundaries because they fear coming across as difficult, demanding, or unkind, but the truth is the opposite. Boundaries create clarity, trust, and stability. They prevent misunderstandings, resentment, and emotional burnout. When you delay expressing your limits, you often end up accepting behavior that drains you, frustrates you, or disrespects your needs. Others may assume you are comfortable with things you silently dislike, and by the time you finally speak up, the situation may have already become tense or complicated. Setting boundaries early is an act of self-awareness. It requires you to know what matters to you, what you need to feel safe and respected, and where your personal lines are drawn. Clear boundaries aren't about control, they're about communication. They tell others how to treat you, how to engage with you, and how to interact in a way that supports mutual respect. The key to establishing strong boundaries is confidence and consistency. It's not enough to simply state your limits. You must uphold them with your actions. When someone crosses a boundary you set, you reinforce it, not with anger, but with steady, calm firmness. People respect what you respect, and they follow the standard you set for yourself. When you communicate boundaries directly, you remove the ambiguity that often leads to conflict. Instead of assuming your partner, friend, or colleague should know better, you give them a clear framework to work with. Boundaries also help you build healthier connections because they filter out people who are not aligned with your values. If someone reacts negatively to your boundaries, that is a sign they may not be capable of giving you the respect or emotional safety you deserve. Those who value you will appreciate your honesty, and they will adjust their behavior because they understand your limits come from self-respect, not selfishness. Setting boundaries early is also a way of protecting your future self. Every time you say yes when you truly want to say no, you trade your peace for short-term comfort. Over time, this leads to exhaustion, bitterness, and damaged relationships. By contrast, expressing your boundaries upfront builds a foundation of mutual understanding. It shows that you value your time, your energy, and your emotional health. Boundaries are the framework that keeps you balanced, grounded, and connected to your sense of identity. They are not walls that push people away. They are doors that open only to those who come with respect. When you learn to set boundaries early and clearly, you invite healthier, more fulfilling relationships into your life, and you reinforce the most powerful message you can send to the world: your well-being matters. 7. Confidence matters more than looks or age. Confidence is one of the most powerful forces in human interaction, and it often outweighs physical appearance or age because it communicates something far deeper: certainty, stability, and self-trust. When a person carries themselves with confidence, they project an energy that naturally attracts others, regardless of whether they are the youngest or the most physically striking person in the room. People are drawn to those who seem grounded, secure, and comfortable in their own skin, because confidence signals emotional maturity and inner strength. It shows that you know who you are, what you value, and what you bring to a relationship or social dynamic. This is why someone who might not fit society's conventional standards of youth or attractiveness can still become genuinely captivating. Their presence feels solid, authentic, and reassuring. Confidence also reduces insecurity, both your own and the other person's. When you're comfortable with yourself, you aren't seeking validation or trying too hard to impress, which removes pressure and creates a more natural connection. People instinctively relax around someone who isn't needy or unsure. And unlike physical appearance, which fades, or age, which inevitably increases, confidence is a trait that can grow stronger with time. Life experience often brings more clarity, wisdom, and resilience, and these qualities enhance your charisma far more than any temporary physical feature ever could. A confident person listens better, speaks with intention, sets boundaries clearly, and navigates discomfort with composure, behaviors that communicate reliability and emotional leadership. Confidence also helps you take social risks, such as approaching someone you're interested in, expressing your intentions clearly, or showing vulnerability without fear of rejection. The people who succeed socially and romantically are rarely the most beautiful or the youngest. They are the ones who act with assurance, authenticity, and purpose. When you trust yourself, others intuitively feel they can trust you too. And trust, more than looks or age, is the foundation of attraction and connection. This is why investing in confidence is more meaningful than obsessing over appearance or competing with younger people. Confidence is built through discipline, self-respect, and consistent action, taking care of your body, improving your communication, mastering your craft, keeping your promises to yourself, and living according to your values. Over time, these habits create a quiet but powerful aura that others can feel immediately. So the lesson is simple but transformative. Focus less on how you compare to others and more on becoming the strongest, truest version of yourself. When you stand firmly in your identity and walk through the world with certainty, you become magnetic. Looks may catch someone's attention, and age might influence first impressions, but confidence is what makes people stay, because it reveals the real you, and that is far more compelling than anything superficial. 8. Keep yourself physically and mentally sharp. Staying physically and mentally sharp is one of the most powerful investments you can make in your long-term well-being, confidence, and performance in life. In a world full of distractions, responsibilities, and constant stimulation, your mind and body become the foundation for everything you do: your clarity, focus, discipline, attractiveness, and even your sense of purpose. Keeping yourself sharp begins with understanding that physical health and mental strength are not separate. They fuel each other. When your body feels strong, your mind becomes more capable. When your mind is disciplined and calm, your body responds with better energy, posture, and presence. Sharpening yourself starts with consistent movement. Daily exercise, Even in simple forms like walking, stretching, or short strength sessions, primes your brain for clarity and boosts your emotional resilience. When you commit to physical training, you don't just build muscle, you build discipline, confidence, and the ability to handle stress. Sleep is equally essential. Quality rest restores your mind, reinforces memory, and stabilizes your mood. Without proper sleep, no amount of motivation or positivity can make up for a tired brain. Mental sharpness also requires intentional training. Your mind becomes dull when you let it run on autopilot, react emotionally to everything, or consume information without reflection. Staying sharp means engaging with challenging ideas, reading consistently, practicing focus, and strengthening your emotional control. Stoic practices, such as observing your thoughts without acting on them immediately, help you stay grounded rather than overwhelmed. Meditation, or even 5 minutes of stillness each day, clears mental clutter and improves your ability to stay present. Reducing unnecessary mental noise, constant notifications, unproductive scrolling, negativity from others, frees up mental space for creativity and strategic thinking. Nutrition plays a major role as well. Clean, balanced foods keep your energy stable and prevent mental fog, while hydration ensures your brain functions at its best. You also stay sharp by protecting your environment. Spend time with people who inspire growth, not those who drain your energy. Surrounding yourself with purpose-driven individuals elevates your standards and sharpens your mindset through example and conversation. Finally, staying sharp means never allowing yourself to stagnate. Growth is a lifelong journey, and the moment you stop sharpening your tools, your mind, your body, your habits, you begin to decline. Learn new skills, set new goals, and challenge yourself regularly. Whether it's advancing in your career, mastering a hobby, or improving your emotional intelligence, continuous learning keeps your brain flexible and strong. A sharp person remains curious, adaptable, and open to improvement. When you consistently push yourself forward, you stand out in every area of life. Your presence becomes more confident, your thinking becomes more strategic, and your energy becomes more magnetic. Keeping yourself physically and mentally sharp is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It is the discipline that shapes your identity and the power that allows you to create the life you want.